Hello and welcome. I hope you guys are all doing great today and looking forward to this interview that I'm about to do with Sandra Felimovicius. And she is also known here on Instagram as Sandra Fele Art. So Sandra Fele Art. And she is going to be joining us here. And give me just a moment. I wanted to take care of just a little bit of housework here. All right, so I've got, give me a moment. I'm gonna bring her on, and I think that she is here. Let's see. All right. Again, thank you guys for joining me. Give me just a moment. And I'm going to bring Sandra on, and we're going to have a little chat so that you guys can learn a bit about what she is doing during this pandemic. All right, let's see if I can just, oh, here we go. All right, I think I did it right this time. Let's see, she's going to get a request to join in here. Here we go. All right.
Hi, Betty.
Hi, Sandra. How are you?
Sorry about that. I don't know. It just takes a little bit, I guess.
That's okay. You know, I'm fumbling over here too, trying to figure out how to pin a comment and get you on here at the same time. So that's how live goes. You know, it's very fluid, and we just kind of go with the flow, right?
Yes, we do. We're
All
learning.
right.
I'm learning that as I go very fast.
I am so happy to have you here. You are located in Minnesota, correct?
I am. Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Great.
Minneapolis.
Wonderful.
So
And I'm here in California. So let me do this. We've got people joining in, but as they join in, let me go ahead and do an introduction, and then we can, wanted to ask you some questions today too. So, all right.
perfect.
All right, thanks. Okay, so during the quarantine, Sandra decided to make a difference by inspiring people at home. She invites guests every Wednesday and Saturday to go live at noon Central Standard Time to talk about their process, their materials, teachings, just about everything and anything. Also an opportunity for you to ask questions of the artist. Every artist in turn then makes an original piece of artwork, and then at the end of each month, Sandra sells the collection. 100% of the profits goes to Feeding America, which is the nation's largest domestic hunger relief organization. So that's one thing that Sandra is doing to give back to the community, not only to help those that are in need, but also to help the artists, because I'm telling you, all of her interviews have been so fascinating, just learning about the artist. So she's kind of giving back to the artist community at the same time. And I want to tell you, like, I've already watched the interviews with Krista Harris, Jane Kenyon, Robert Zott, a few of my favorite artists. So I encourage all of you to go over to her profile, to her page, and scroll down, and you'll see all of the interviews there, and tap through. And guaranteed, you guys are going to love learning about these artists. They're all coming to you usually within their own studio, so they're showing you around the studio at the same time.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So fabulous. So Sandra, tell me. Let's start with you first. Tell me a little bit about yourself. You know, anything you want to share with us.
Well, I'm originally from Mexico City. I was born and raised in Mexico City. I'm a daughter of an architect, developer, and my mom had an incredible eye for design, and they both did an incredible team together, and they showed me really the foundations of design and architecture, and that's where my spark of creativity started at a really young age. They
Yeah.
exposed me to, yeah, it was incredible that I was able to get that exposure from both my parents. And I didn't really thought that I was going into art full time. When I graduated from high school, I decided to live in Florence, Italy, and that's where I
Wow.
actually found art. I
Yeah.
worked with a maestro underneath a church, where he took me as his student, and I learned how to draw with him. And he was an incredible, just inspirational teacher for me. And he really changed my path as where to my life was going to go. So then I got married to a physician, and we moved here to Minneapolis. He did his surgery residency here. So I decided to go to the Minneapolis College of Art and Design and get my degree there. So I have a bachelor's in fine art. And I've been actively painting since then. Obviously, with a resident salary, we couldn't afford having an artist at home. So I went back to school to learn how to draft, and I drafted for an interior designer, and I taught art to little kids. And then, it finally, I was able to get a studio and go look, find my passion.
That's
So
awesome. I love that foundation of having both of your parents being very creative, and then amazing to go to Italy and to be inspired. Just amazing background there. That's
yes,
great.
yes. I was very
Wonderful.
fortunate and very lucky. And so,
Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah.
I'm an abstract contemporary artist myself.
Okay.
I have developed, through the years, and I'm always studying and I'm always learning. And I study a lot under Stephen Amony, and find his direction really helpful to me and my work. And so I'm always looking for new things to add to my work, and to continue developing. And then COVID happened.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and the beautiful thing about being an artist is I don't feel like you're never done learning. There's always something new and exciting to
Right.
try, to experiment, to see how you can incorporate that into your artwork. So it's like there's never a dull moment. There's always something fascinating that you can be doing. That's
Exactly.
great. Yeah.
Exactly.
All right. So tell
So
me about, yeah, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
Okay. So tell me about the quarantine. Here we are, in this worldwide pandemic. So tell me how this quarantine has affected you and your family.
Well, my husband, like I mentioned, he's a surgeon, and so he never stopped going to work. And so he goes to the hospital every day. And I saw him coming back home with all his marks, around his face,
Yeah.
and,
Yep.
just being really protective of himself, but also of us. And we decided he has a routine where, he showers at the hospital and leaves everything in the garage, and then he changes to new clothes, and then he walks into the house, and then he showers again. And it's just a lot of showers in this house. But we're trying to maintain this level of normalcy. And I usually have my studio in Northeast Minneapolis, so it's not in my home. And our governor asked us to stay home for a little bit, so we did that. So I brought all my stuff home, and I started, I had a little corner in my house, so
Yeah.
not my usual spread out. And I started to think, what can I do to help others that didn't feel any creative juices going on, or didn't feel inspired. And here I was looking at my husband, that he came, every day from work, not complaining, and getting all the phone calls from family and friends, and always answering each one with so much patience and so much information that he had. And
Yeah.
so yeah, so I thought, like, what can I do to find that? And actually, I had a friend, Amy Zeroff, who also is doing her live uh, uh, channel, and she interviewed me, and just, how my process was going at home. And all of a sudden I was like, you know what? I think that, I should be doing something to bring artists to our homes, because
Hmm.
there's nothing like to see an artist in their studio when they
Right.
open their doors. And I
Yeah.
think right now, everyone is being so candid and so open on
Yeah.
sharing their process and their inspirations. And so they really talk about everything, and it's like an open book with each of my artists that I've had. And so I started calling my dearest colleagues and friends, and just to see if they would even be on board on this. Jane Kenyon, you mentioned, she was my
Yes.
very first one, and you can tell I didn't know what I was doing. And I will have her back again because I owe her a better interview. But the
It was
whole
still great. It was still great, and it was great seeing, her workspace and her talking about her work. So I wouldn't say that. I thought it was great.
Thank you so much. And like I said, I've never used a live on Instagram. I never used to know a lot of things, and I had to learn them really fast, really quickly, because I did find a niche for people that really were interested in learning about other artists. And then we sparked this creativity at home. And it was really interesting how it all happened. And now I am the connector between artists, so artists helping artists, but also of artists helping at home.
Yes.
And so what's happening, and Betty's going to join me on July 18th, live
Yes.
in my studio, which I'm super excited. I am asking every participant to make an original piece of artwork. And then at the end of every month, I'm going to be selling those as a collection. And 100%, like you said, will go to Feeding America.
Yeah, which absolutely fabulous, and I love this, this idea that you came up with. That again, twofold, helping other artists, exposing not just the artists you're interviewing, because then we get a real, that person gets an opportunity to be exposed to a lot of people, but just like we said, sharing what we do in the studio, what our studio looks like, what's our practice. I think I find it personally, I find it so fascinating to do that. And I think a lot of other folks do too. So,
Yeah, I think that it's been very fascinating to see the on both sides of the spectrum. So as an artist, to open yourself and like I said, almost open to secrets that maybe you never were even asked to share before. And
right.
I think sometimes artists, we all work by ourselves, and we get into this cocoon type of situation where you just in your own mind, and you don't get the opportunity to share everything that you have. And no one will really copy you, what you're doing. I think if they copy you, it's a compliment. In a way, and your hand has its own brushstroke,
Yes.
so it's not a threatening thing, which I think, in the past it was looked as, if I
Right.
say or
Right.
if I show my secrets, people are going to start copying me.
Yeah.
And it's the contrary. People are so thankful to see and to share and to maybe start something at home that they never even thought they could. And abstract work is very it's out there, and a lot of people don't understand it. And there's no rhyme or reason, but when they see and hear all this artists and see all the work that comes behind to be, under behind the surfaces, to be an abstract painter, and all the language that happens in a
Yeah.
painting, then they're like, oh, next time, God willing, when I go to a museum and I see a piece of abstract work, I'll start to understand that language.
Absolutely. Right. Right. Yeah. No, absolutely. I think that your video interviews are really digging a lot deeper, like you said, things that we normally wouldn't see about that person, that artist, that they're not pinning, or they're not posting on their page. So it is fascinating to dig a little bit deeper on each one of those. So with all of these interviews that you've done, and not only these interviews, but all your teachers you've had in the past, some artists that you've talked to, galleries, interior designers, what have you learned through all these interviews that you've done so far?
Well, I think that, I'm trying to be a platform where it's an information for everyone. And I myself have learned the process, for example, of being in a gallery versus not being in a gallery, what it means to be in a gallery, how to approach a gallery. Because I had Jonathan Ferraris as a guest. and he spoke about, you know, what is the process, what does it look like, how are the galleries doing nowadays too, you know, with all this competition and different platforms, and how there's always going to be room for galleries, and there's always going to be room for artists to do their own thing. I'm going to have Martha Dayton. She's a local interior designer, but she works international. How is she, you know, what is the best way as an artist to reach out to an interior designer so they can have you in their portfolio when they're working, you know, in a project. I'm having Robin Marie, who is a tech savvy. She's the founder of Makers U, and she's an incredible lady to start with. We've become friends, but she's so knowledgeable, and she's going to be on Saturday. So she's going to talk about, you know, how you grow your social media, how you start your website. And then I have incredible artists that I'm learning their techniques, and I'm seeing myself, you know, trying everything and carving that time for myself. Because right now I'm so busy with everything else that I'm trying to be very concentrated on the time that I have for mindful. I'm sorry, I couldn't find the word. Mindful of my time when I'm in the studio, when I'm creating, and then all the voices of all the artists are coming through. And so I think what I'm going to do also that you don't know, Betty, is that we are going to create a catalog of all the artists participating with their piece of art. And we're going to talk about, you know, their inspirations, their process, and then I'm going to also name all the materials that each one of them use. So it will be more like a dictionary / informational / beautiful imagery. So it's a little bit of everything. So stay tuned for that one.
Yeah, I love that idea. That's great. Something that, you know, when this is all said and done, you've got, you know, this book with all these beautiful artwork in it and information about each artist. So I love that. That's great. In terms of coming up, you've got Robin Marie coming up. Who else do you have on your? Because I know you're booked out for quite a couple of months. That's why I'm going to be joining you in the middle of July.
I know, it's actually kind of crazy. This kind of took a life of its own. You know, dear artists of mine, friends of mine are reaching to be featured, and I'm like, I am so sorry, I can't do this right now. You know, I'm taking names for the future, but right now I'm fully booked. I have incredible lineup that I'm going to keep a secret a little bit because I'm doing a big reveal for tomorrow for all my June artists. But I have incredible, I'll just give you just a couple names. Robert Morris is going to be joining us. Nancy Hillis is going to be joining us.
Oh, good. I love Nancy.
Is going to be, yeah. So it's going to be a really incredible month filled with, I have Audrey Phillips. I'm telling you a lot. So I'm going to have teachers, artists, interior designers, and so a little bit of everything to keep the conversation open and going.
Great. That's great. I know you're going to have a great lineup. And again, for all of you guys who are joining in today or watching the replay of this, Sandra is doing interviews every Wednesday and Saturday at noon Central Standard Time. So you've got to join in and watch. And of course, they're all going to go over to her IGTV channel, and they're also in her feed. So you can just go to her feed and click on one.
And now I open also a YouTube channel so all the interviews are at Sandra Felly Art. You can find me on Facebook on Sandra Felly Art. Everything is Sandra Felly Art. So I made it really easy for you guys to find me.
Good. Yes. Okay. Wonderful. Thank you, Sandra, so much for joining me today. This has been great learning more about what you do and how you're helping the community, and we're so grateful to you for doing that. I personally am looking forward to watching those future interviews, and also I got to catch up on a few more, and I love to play them when I'm creating so that I can listen to creative people while I'm creating. So thank
Yeah.
you again, Sandra. And
Thank you, Betty,
yeah,
for letting me talk about this incredible project. And I'll see you again real soon in July 18th.
yes,
You're joining me in my studio.
definitely.
So,
Can't
yes,
wait.
can't
All right,
wait.
take
Thank you,
care.
Betty. Take
All right,
care. Bye
see ya.
bye.
Bye.